Having true awareness about yourself individually and understanding where your weaknesses are is extremely important. And to not be egotistical, thinking that you are everything in every situation and circumstance.
I lost over $324,000 trying to launch an Amazon business. I nearly lost everything, my marriage, my kids, my house. But I got back up. And people ask me, how did you do that? And that set me on a path to wondering, how did I do that? How does anyone do that? How do you get back up time and time again and keep going when it looks like it's impossible? That's what this show is about. This is the Resiliency Project, where we discover what it takes to get back up and keep going, and can we teach people how to be resilient? And our guest today is one of my favorite human beings, Jason Bishara. He's the lead of financial practice at NSI Insurance Group. He's advising companies and their deal teams on insurance risks, capital markets transactions, with a focus on D&O insurance, and he does so much more. My friend, mentor, client, coach, Jason Bishara, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. So listen, we kick this off right away. First, we dive right in. Tell me about a time that you failed and got back up.
Yeah, not in the business that I'm currently in, but it's how I started to get into the business that I'm in of protecting executive officers and directors of publicly traded companies. So was involved or engaged in a company that was venture capital backed. And we missed a little bit of timing on the window. We were having a lot of success in the business, but we were valuing the business based on user base and scale and the audience, not the value of revenue, right, or cash flow. Mm-hmm. And this was during the same time as Facebook, and we were valuing the same way Facebook was valuing at that point in time, which was the value of the audience. Facebook had gone public. Facebook went down on the initial IPO. A lot of people don't remember that, but the stock actually did not do very well on the IPO. It was a very poor IPO. Yeah. And that was an opportunity for the venture capital group that had been backing us at that point in time to take advantage of the opportunity and squeeze us for the asset in the business, which the primary asset was the database. And they wanted access to that database because they owned another entity that was in the process of an M&A transaction, and it increased the value of that particular transaction that they had been working on. So it was timing, but I had two other successful exits before that. I'd made a significant amount of money on each of those, rolled or parlayed a lot of that capital, most of that capital into this new venture. Thought I knew and understood what my risk threshold was in dollars and cents, which turned out to be 10 times that as the opportunity to turn into a restructure, reorganization of the business. And you said it, still married, 27 years later this July, right? But put stress on the marriage, stress on the family, stress on capital constraints, having to restart 2 years of recapping and restructuring. Didn't want to put the company through bankruptcy. I'm an ex-financial guy, now in the insurance business. If I went through bankruptcy, it would have been very difficult, if not impossible, to maintain a career path in any of these industries. So had to reset the entire business and work it through. That meant not just the 2 years of losses, but 2 years of no cash flow. No salary, right? So it took a little bit to get it restructured and reset and re-put out, but I was able to do it. Was able to exit the business cleanly. And then, you said, how do you drive forward? How do you get through it? Sometimes the answer is because you have to, right? But I will tell you that for me, always had Dory in the back of my ear. Little Dory, keep on swimming. Just keep on swimming. Keep moving forward. Don't lay stagnant. If you keep moving forward, the faster you move forward, the faster the things are in your rearview mirror. So that's pretty much my story. Or if you want me to evolve it, I'll also say that turned into me learning a lot about insurance coverages, and the coverages you could have in place to protect yourself. In this particular case, we did have D&O insurance coverage, but we didn't have the appropriate structure of D&O insurance coverage. So I took that negative scenario and needed to reinvent myself as well, because I was a technology-based company, a fintech company, and reinvented myself and said, there's a void in the market because why did I not receive the advice, the guidance, the direction, or the expertise that I should have? And I said, there must be value in providing small publicly traded companies or venture capital backed deals with sage risk management advice to protect the officers and directors so they won't wind up in the same situation that I was in.
I mean, what an amazing story. I want to sort of unpack a very specific moment, right? Where the VC firm is coming to you and saying, look at what's on the market. We got to basically raid your cupboards. How do you control your emotions? How do you stop yourself from really spiraling at that point and assuming the worst and really not being able to move because you're paralyzed by just rage and fear?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it. It's more than just fear. There's a lot of rage, right? There's definitely a lot of rage. And I think you got to take a deep breath, right? You've got to evaluate, and you've got to reevaluate. You've got to be calculated. It's like, anybody will tell you if you're a swimmer and you're trying to tread water and you're panicking and flailing, you're going to drown. So you need to remain calm, right? You need to take a deep breath. You need to evaluate. And you need to leverage your mastermind group. And, I take mastermind group from the book Think and Grow Rich for anybody who's right there, Grow Rich. But surrounding yourself with people who can be good advisors, birds of a feather flock together. Surround yourself by, I've always been surrounded by amazing people. And I believe that a lot of the keys to my success are the people that I've been able to leverage who've been able to advise me through some of those paths. I didn't always listen, right? But being able to stand by people who could advise me in areas, mostly when I'm weak or I'm blinded by the rage or emotion. You got to see clearly. You got to calm down. You have to see clearly.
There's so much wisdom in that pause, right? If you just pause, you take a breath, you do nothing for a minute, things become a little bit more clear. But what do you say to people that say, well, but my hair's on fire. The world is on fire and I'm supposed to take a breath? How do you get people to understand that that's the necessary path?
I have to tell you, that's when it's most important. And if you look at your great business leaders and you look at how most of them drive the success of their business, they're calm, they're calculated, right? They're pragmatic in their approach. So it comes down to even just business operations, right? If, we all go through periods of time of where we're going to struggle through growth and success just as much as you struggle through the failures. And the important thing is, in order to drive forward, right, you have to be able to be calm and you got to be able to move those things forward through the people and the team that you have and evaluate. You'll move faster by slowing down. You move more calculated by slowing down. And you will make good decisions and you will make bad decisions, but the only wrong decision is indecision, right? So don't get stuck and keep moving forward. Make decisions, point and shoot and move. Tale as old as time. Keep moving forward. Get it in your rearview mirror as fast as you can. Adjust, modify, adapt, and overcome. Right? I mean, they use these methodologies that they've adopted a lot of these methodologies, not just in business development. It started off in software technology, the agile methodology. I'm sure many people are familiar with it, but it's really been adopted now a lot in business, and not even but more detailed business planning, forecasting, financial projections, right? Pro formas, because it evolves so rapidly. Right. The important thing is to move and continually evolve and adjust, but move and move forward, move fast.
Well, and so speaking of which, right. So after that kind of collapse, you went and pivoted completely into insurance and built that agency. And one of the things that, I love about Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books, I think I don't have it because I've lent it out so many times. I just keep buying new copies. But one of the things they talk about in that book, right, is gratitude, really still saying thank you every day and really being grateful just for the opportunity. How do you do that when you're starting from scratch, when you were ready to start that insurance business and really it's from scratch, right? That wasn't your field. How do you practice gratitude in those moments?
I feel blessed every day to have a great family. right? Rooted in my family and faith, not for everybody, but that's fine. Be spiritual, not be spiritual. But if you have good energy that surrounds you, right? I believe that that core basis of surrounding yourself with good energy and being thankful for the things that you do have enables you to drive forward continually on a regular basis, daily. If necessary. It doesn't mean I don't have bad days, right?
We're human. Yeah.
We all have bad days, but I will tell you that I'm truly, even in my darkest moments, I've been thankful for the things that I have had, right? So when I was going through those very difficult time, and it was an extended period of time, right? Because it took a while to unwind it. So it wasn't like something that hit fast and ran. I had to fix it and stick in it, right? It was also during that same period of time that my kids were young. And instead of traveling, I was home and I was coaching and I was at some school stuff or whatever the case may be. So I was around and I was available a lot more. So believe it or not, through one of the biggest failures, I got one of the biggest blessings, right? So, and today I have two great kids, 22 and 24 years old. They're both awesome, right? And, I'm thankful that I had the ability to be around during that period of time. So I think a lot of it's all perception, how you want to perceive things. The time sucked, but it was also great. You know what I mean? So I like to focus on the things that were great about that period of time, not the negative piece of that period of time. My preference.
Well, yeah, but so let me ask you this. How do you use those negative experiences really just as learnings, right? How do you focus just on them as, look, it happened, but here's what I learned? How do you sort of compartmentalize your brain to do that? Because again, it's a little bit about controlling emotions. How do you control the sadness for those losses?
I focus on other things. Okay, so I focus on moving forward, right? I focus on solutions, not problems. I focus on the things I can control, not the things I can't control. And a lot of what I like to focus on is teaching and educating next generation or next grouping. So I get a lot of energy from I feel good, right, when I'm teaching other people and I'm focusing on helping other people do well. So I know that if I'm helping other people do well and I'm focusing on that, surrounded by that, I'm going to do better. And that's always done very well for me. And that goes back to, where I cut my teeth back in on Wall Street, where I started off, sales training and mentoring and training, investment bankers and stockbrokers a long time ago. And I had a tremendous amount of success in that industry, in that business. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact of that I was continually just teaching and advising.
So let's get into it. So now as we're starting the show, so you're obviously based out of Florida. You've got that insurance practice, but talk to us about your background. How did you get to where you are?
So I started off, never went to college. I don't know if you know that or not. So I never did.
I didn't. I actually didn't know that. That was that's a surprise to me. Okay,
not a day, right? So I wasn't a great student, but I was always very driven and hardworking, and always had a hustler spirit. So going even into high school, whether it was cutting lawns or shoveling walkways, I always had to hustle a buck, right? So never afraid to work. But when I graduated high school, my grandparents had left me a couple bucks, and my father said, you could use it for college and waste the money because you're not going to do anything with it, or you could start a business. So I decided to start a business. And I went into partnership with my father, and I opened up my first business, which was a bagel shop. So, yeah, go figure, right? So I realized and learned very quickly that I really didn't like the food industry, and I certainly didn't like the bagel industry and being up at 3:00 in the morning, working 7 days a week. But I started learning about business and understanding how to operate the business and operating with a true earnings and true EBITDA and creating value in the business. So I started learning more and more about the business. As I was learning more about the business, the first question I said is, okay, that's great. I own a bagel shop, but I don't want to be the guy running in the bagels all the time. How do I turn this into an enterprise? Right? So how do I turn it into a real business and scale it? I didn't know the terminology then, scale, okay. So I didn't know anything, right? But what I did have was the gift of gab. And I used to communicate with all of the people who used to come into my bagel shop on a regular basis. And my bagel shop was in Jupiter, Florida, and just off Jupiter Island. And I used to have a really interesting clientele. Greg Norman would come in, Jack Nicklaus would come in, and they'd come in early in the mornings. They'd look at blueprints on, so I'd listen and I'd talk to them. They have no idea who I am, right? But I would listen and I would talk to them and I'd hear things. That was great. And then a great individual, he's since passed, was Jack Miller from Miller's Ale Houses. His primary office was directly across the street. And I would leverage a lot of his knowledge and communicate. And he was the one who really taught me more about leveraging other people's money and how he scaled. And he started off with a bunch of investors in an investor group that was made up of a bunch of attorneys. And then I had another individual who was a huge Wall Street individual who had a place on Jupiter Island, and also lived in Manhattan at that point in time. And he used to teach me about stock. So I combined the stock with understanding what was going on with, Miller's Ale Houses and raising capital and other people's money, OPM. And I said, okay, I need to be able to raise capital so that I could start scaling the bagel store. That was the idea. And then I met with Jack Miller, and Jack Miller said to me, do you want to make money or do you want to make bagels?
That's a great question.
Okay, I said to him, I go, my answer, I want to make the best product that I could possibly make, and people will come from wherever because I'm doing such an awesome job. He looked right at me and he said, wrong answer. You want to make money. I said, oh my God. I go, okay, all right, so I want to make money. So I guess that's really what I want to do. I want to make money. So how do I go and make money? He goes, well, the first thing you want to do is understand the concept of being able to build and scale a business. You want to be able to build the best product that you can at the most viable price where people will digest it, not just the best product that people will overpay for, right? And, if you look at some of the most scalable companies that are out there, mostly in the food industry or whatever, but a lot of those product lines are just, unless you're getting into luxury brands, right? Most of those product lines are just that, right? Domino's, right? Domino's is a great example of McDonald's, whatever it is, right? They're good enough in the right price point of where people are willing to digest those things in large scale. Now, of course, then if you get different ranges of what that scale is and what's digestible from luxury brand to ultra luxe brands, right? And what people are willing to digest. But at the end of the day, what I realized really quick, and thank you to him and one other gentleman who I don't remember his name, but he used to come in and talk to me all the time, and he owned a very large marble distribution company, and he was based out of like Ohio or somewhere like that. And they both advised me that I wanted to be in business. I didn't want to be, or finance. I didn't want to be the operator of operating a business. And they were 100% right? I'm not somebody who's going to sit in the same place in the same location every single day. I'm a big mess. I drive at a very fast pace. I need a team of people.
You can't take the Long Island out of the boy, huh?
No. Maybe with the hat, but not too many hats on Long Island. But I will tell you that it's important to understand who your team is, right? It's important to align yourself with the people who are going to complement you where you are weak, right? Mm-hmm. So having true awareness about yourself individually and understanding where your weaknesses are is extremely important. And to not be egotistical, thinking that you are everything in every situation and circumstance.
And I think that's so important and so difficult to do because people can't just sit in silence, right? And really look internally and figure out, all right, who am I? Where are my weaknesses? And be honest about it, right? So I think that's a necessary process if you're going to develop resiliency. One of our last guests asked me to ask you, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do?
If I know I couldn't fail?
Couldn't fail.
Man, that is a great question. If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do? I don't know. Go to Mars.
I love it. Set up a colony, right? We're space up here. That's phenomenal. So last question for you, Jason. Bring it home. So what does resiliency mean to you? When I say that word, resiliency, what does it mean?
To not give up, right? To do whatever it takes to get through. Don't quit, right? So many people, I look a lot, honestly, I'm concerned about it. I have a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old. They're both very tough and they both work very hard. But I look at this next generation of individuals, and some of them are very hardworking, but we've gone through an economy now where they haven't seen a downturn. They haven't gone through a rough spot. They've had nothing but upside. They've had all reward, right? And many of them live lifestyles that are rather significant, right? Comparative to what is probably realistically sustainable. Savings is not a thing, right? I'm concerned they don't have resiliency. I'm concerned they don't have the toughness to get it through. What makes you tough is getting punched in the jaw several times and standing back up. They've never been punched in the jaw.
Yeah, and had to take that breath and pause and reevaluate, take that inventory, and then move forward. Jason, this has been amazing today. I think we learned you've got to keep going, you've got to believe, and you've got to take that pause. Take a second. Don't always react, but really be calm. Jason, thank you so much for being here with us today on the Resiliency Project podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time.